So it's live sport with which we start, yes, motorcycling. The race at Donington is round one of the Yamaha Pro-Am series. All the riders are on identical 350cc machines, but what makes this series so intriguing is that you have the established stars up against aspiring youngsters. But focus on this race, though, will be centred on Alan Carter. At 18, the youngest winner of a Grand Prix, this Halifax rider blazed his way from the back to the front 2 weeks ago in France to establish an international reputation. He's up against the defending champion Ray Swan and such riders as Andy Watts, Ken Irons and Steve Chambers. But before we join them all live at Donington for the race over 8 laps of the circuit, for which commentary will be by Chris Carter and special guest Barry Sheen, let's hear what Alan Carter has to say, talking now to Andrew Marriott.
Alan Carter, winner of the 250 French Grand Prix. Now you're back in the Pro-Am. They're all going to try and get you, aren't they?
Yeah, I didn't start too well in the Pro-Am this morning. I had a few problems and slid off on the first lap, so, you know, things can only get better, but, you know, I'm sure everybody's out there to beat me, and it's going to be a very hard race.
Did you actually hurt yourself when you went down?
Well, I went down quite fast, breaking into the chicane on the first lap, and I hurt my knees a bit, but, you know, I went to the hospital and got them checked over and some cream on them. I think I'm going to be okay, no problem, and give it a go.
These Pro-Am bikes, of course, are on road tyres. Does that make it very much more difficult to ride, jumping straight off a bike with slicks onto one with road tyres?
Well, there's a great deal of difference, obviously, but it wasn't really the tyres that... Well, it was the tyres that fetched me off, but the thing was I didn't run them in enough and going too quick, too fast, and that's what you pay, that's the price, so...
Can you win today?
Well, I hope so.
Well, Alan Carter win this opening round of the Wrangler Witchbike Pro-Am series. It remains to be seen. 20 riders, 20 of the best young riders in the country, all of them under the age of 24. Some of them, like Alan Carter, with a lot of experience. Alan, of course, the youngest rider in the race, 18 years of age. But we've got other teenagers too, men like Kim Barker, who's 19. We've got last year's race winner, Ray Swan, the series winner. We've got Andy Watts, who performed so well in this series and then went on to do well at the Silverstone Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix. Ken Irons, Steve Chambers. Well, I know Barry Sheen, who's sitting here in the commentary box. You think Steve Chambers is a bit of all right, don't you, Barry?
Yeah, I think he's a very good rider. He's a young rider and he rides very well. I think it's a bit silly putting Alan Carter in this race, actually, because he's doing so well in the World Championship that everybody's going to be out to nail him, so I hope he steers clear of him.
Well, we shall see what Carter can do in just a few moments' time. It's 8 laps, a clutch start, all of them dead eager. The bikes absolutely identical. Luck of the draw, the ignition keys are pulled out of the hat before the race starts, before practice starts, and whether you get a quick bike or a slow bike depends on what happens. So off they go into the first corner, into Redgate.
Got a bit of camera trouble on the first corner, so we're not going to see anything.
We're not seeing an awful lot of this. Here come the leaders then. Well, a whole bunch of them. Some of the more cynical people, well, we lost, unfortunately, a camera at Redgate, so we weren't able to see them go through, but it looks as though everybody's through something in a real bit of trouble. That was a little bit of a problem there, and we shall see who the leaders are. Round they go through Starkey's Bridge.
No one, it's Ray Swan leading.
And it is the race leader, Ray Swan, in fact, being pushed back into second place by Andy Watts. Andy Watts in the lead, Ray Swan in second place.
I'm just looking for Carter, I can't see him.
Well, Andy Watts, Alan Carter in something like 8th or 9th place there, round Coppice Corner, down the back straight, and this is where the difference between the bikes that are slightly quicker than the others, but there's really very little in it at all as they come hurtling down. A group of 7 riders going into the chicane for the very first time, and something's going to happen here for sure.
Oh, boy.
Well, the race leader, Andy Watts, goes from 1st to 3rd in one fell swoop. There they go through at the end of the first lap. 7 laps to go in this Pro-Am series.
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 1
Well, I think the point you made a little earlier, Barry, that everyone's going to be out to get someone like Alan Carter. Oh, and somebody nearly had his front wheel taken away from him there. And that is Andy Watts trying to go through on the inside of Neil Mackenzie, the Scottish boy. Steve Chambers from Lincolnshire, same village as Kim Marker, he's up there as well. And, well, it's still anybody's race, of course, going in halfway round the second lap. And some bravery there from Neil Mackenzie. Andy Watts, number 3. Neil, and they are absolutely elbow to elbow. And that was Ray Swan, who tried to take the lead. He's been relegated, and Ray Swan, number 1, in fact, regains the lead. Well, it's still a 7 or 8 man scrap.
Steve Chambers is on his way up there now. He's in 4th place.
I think this is a sort of race where you definitely want to be first or last, but not in the middle.
I'd sort of be in the pits, quite frankly, looking at this. Oh, Steve Chambers is up the front.
Steve Chambers then, number 5, takes the lead. In 2nd place is Andy Watts, number 3. In 3rd spot, in fact, going through into 2nd place is number 7, Graham Cannell. Well, you need your knees, your elbows, every part of your body for this one.
Need a lot of courage by the looks of it.
Well, this is where outrigger wheels would come in helpful, I think. 2 laps gone. They're on the 3rd lap of this 8-lap race. Still Steve Chambers, the man who moved through nice and neatly, but he's under a lot of pressure from Andy Watts. Andy Watts, a 21-year-old bank clerk. Steve Chambers under pressure, but hangs on to the lead. And they're bobbing and weaving there, down on the tank. Steve Chambers, number 5. Then it's Andy Watts, number 3, pulling out of the slipstream of Steve Chambers, dives through on the inside line and takes the lead.
Alan Carter's moving up now. He's into about 8th place.
Well, as it stands at the moment, anyone... Andy Watts, number 3, pulling out of the slipstream of Steve Chambers, dives through on the inside line and takes the lead.
Alan Carter's moving up now. He's into about 8th place.
Well, as it stands at the moment, any one of the first 8 or 10, in fact, could win it. Look at that group. And I remind you that this is the 3rd lap of this 8-lap race. Down the back straight, underneath the Dunlop Bridge, and into the chicane for the 3rd time, and somebody goes down. Somebody fell on braking. And out in front, it's Neil Mackenzie.
Alan Carter's up into 6th place now.
And the faller there was Neil Robinson. Well, that's the younger brother of Donnie Robinson, who is Alan Carter's teammate in the Team Mitsui Yamaha squad. Perfectly all right. Went down on braking.
God, they're so closely bunched together. It's going to get interesting in a couple of laps because the tyres start getting hot then and the bikes start shaking around even more than they are now.
Steve Chambers, 19 years of age, a toolmaker from Lincolnshire, holds the lead. They're on the 4th lap. Steve Chambers, number 5, holds the lead from number 3, Andy Watts. But there's a whole pack breathing down the neck. Number 4, that's Kenny Irons. He was one of 3 riders in the Pro Am Series who took a tumble in the practice this morning. And amongst those 3 fallers were Alan Carter, Kenny Irons, and Roger Hurst. They all went down. And Steve Chambers now getting, well, perhaps 3 machines length lead.
The thing is, if
Kenny Irons goes through on the inside.
If you can get a break at the beginning of this, and if you can pull out a bit of a lead on the bunch are banging into each other so much, you can, if you can get a lead, get a break, you're away.
4 laps gone, halfway distance in this race. And the man, we've still lost the camera on Redgate, unfortunately. This is the view from down at the old hairpin, looking up towards Hollywood, and here they come into sight, the charge of the Light Brigade. It's 5 machines with a whole bunch of them behind them. Well, I still say any one of the first 8 to 10 could win this one, Barry.
Well, the thing is, it changes so quick, doesn't it? You see somebody in 3rd place, the next lap is 8th, the next lap is leading.
Do you think this sort of racing really helps somebody's racing, or is it a breeding ground, or what's the advantage of it?
Well, it's good in that everybody's on the same bike, but I think the problem is everybody tries so hard because it's a prestigious thing to win. I know one thing, you'd never get me out there in it.
Well, Alan Carter now, number 2, is there in 3rd place. It's Chambers. There's Alan Carter now fought his way through to 3rd place. We saw Alan Carter's superb skill at the French Grand Prix in the 250cc race. And, well, I think you could perhaps put a bob or two on Alan Carter for this.
Well, I would say so. Alan Carter he's only 18 years of age, but he rides very sensibly. You know, he doesn't go like a loony at the beginning. And, oh, somebody else done it. Lost the front end.
And somebody goes down there, and avoiding him was Ken Irons. Well, somebody took a tumble, just got clipped by Ken Irons, but the first 8 men are there, and back now with the race leader, and out in front is Andy Watts. On the outside of his number 5, Steve Chambers. 3 laps to go then, and Alan Carter still 3rd, looking comfortable, but as we saw a moment ago, it's very easy to be the innocent victim of the bumps and bangs in this sort of competition. Andy Watts loses the lead.
Oh, Alan Carter ran the outside. I don't believe it.
So we've got Steve Chambers and Andy Watts, 5 and 3, side by side.
Carter's
and
up the
that's
front.
Alan Carter, in fact. Alan Carter in the lead. I do apologise. Alan Carter having scoot through. Sorry, Barry. Alan Carter in the lead, and it's time to say goodbye to the rest, I suppose.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope they don't all centre punch him at the hairpin. That's the only thing you've got to be worried about.
You think there's a bit of a bullseye on the back of Alan Carter's leathers?
Well, I would say so, yeah. Let's see when they go into the chicane. You'll see everybody doing demon braking, and let's hope nobody loses the front end again.
And in fact, Alan Carter with a slightly slower bike loses the lead to 2 men, and the 2 men there are Andy Watts, number 3, and Steve Chambers, number 5. And we're glad to say that the rider who took the tumble at the chicane is perfectly okay on his feet now. No problems at all. The race leader, number 3, Andy Watts, 6 laps completed, 2 more laps to go. It's 3 Andy Watts, 5 Steve Chambers, and 2 Alan Carter. Well, it's a cliche to say that a blanket would cover a group, but a sort of Carter-sized blanket, I think, would cover them.
Well, honestly, I must say, after watching this, it makes our racing look like Sunday afternoon driving.
Noddy and Toiler.
Really?
Well, 1.5 laps to go, and I think you'd be a brave man to put your money on anybody. But Alan Carter, through the swervery, takes the lead, but only momentarily. He's forced wide by Andy Watts. Steve Chambers is still there in 3rd place, down the back straight. Last time we saw Steve Chambers and Andy Watts in 4th place at the moment. It's number 6, Neil Mackenzie, the young Scottish boy. Down the back straight for the 7th time, though. We're starting their last lap. Alan Carter, number 2, holds the lead. Number 3, Andy Watts is in 2nd place, but this time Carter makes no mistake, and still more demon braking amongst the lower leaderboard places at the chicane. Carter, number 2, holds the lead. Under pressure again from Andy Watts. And it looks as though it's going to be a 2-horse race to the finish. Andy Watts storms through on the inside to take the lead, but
You can see the bike starting to wriggle now because the tyres are getting hot.
well, and Alan Carter wriggled his way through into the lead. They're side by side. Carter holds the lead at the moment. Just over half a lap to go. It's Andy Watts in 2nd place, number 3. Alan Carter.
Ooh, oh,
And Alan Carter came so close to losing it.
That's hot tyres that does that. He lost the front end, and then the back end went.
Production tyres getting hot, as Barry said, but we saw some fine skill there from Alan Carter. A lot of inexperienced men would have thrown it away there, I think.
Really, I think it's this self-preservation act that comes in there.
So here we go. Who is it going to win now? A change. It's Andy Watts.
It should be exciting at the hairpin on the last lap.
Number 7, I think Graham Cannell is now up there. Andy Watts from Graham Cannell. We've not seen a lot of Graham Cannell in this race, but he makes his move at the right moment. Graham Cannell from the Isle of Man takes the lead. Can he hold it? No, he doesn't, because Andy Watts goes through to somebody else. And it's going to be Andy Watts to win this race. And in second place, well, it was so close we didn't even see. In second place was number 6, Neil Mackenzie. In third spot was number 5, Steve Chambers. Fourth was number 7. So it's Andy Watts, the race winner. Well, that was quite a performance, Barry.
You can say that again. It definitely is a nerve-wracking business watching this race, and I think I'll stay downstairs in the caravan next time.
Is this the sort of race where the spectators need to be paid?
I would say so. I reckon you need a Valium before you watch it.
So, a tremendous performance there. What a great ride there from Andy Watts. Andy had a tremendous debut on the at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. And a chance now to see Alan Carter's excursion onto the grass track. Barry, perhaps you'd like to talk
Yeah,
us through this.
I think it's the front end that goes first. Now, if you watch carefully the front wheel, and no, it's the back end started to go, then the front's going, and it's the back going again, then the front going, and that's where it got really nasty, because it could have bunged him over the handlebars, and he'd have got swiftly run over by, what's his name, Andy Watts.
Well,
I would say it's a heart-in-the-mouth job, that was. Depends where he's going to get his trousers clean now.
a change of leathers job there. Well, we saw Alan Carter survive miraculously. Barry, of course, you're going to be out in the next race we see here on World of Sport. After seeing that, what are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts? I wonder why I race motorbikes at the moment. No, I'm looking forward to racing. It'd be nice to get out and race in England again, and I'll just do as good as I can.
Well, we hope you do, and there on the winner's line is the race winner, Andy Watts. So with Andy Watts getting the winner's garland from Charlie Williams, a TT rider himself, we can go back to the studio and Dickie Davis for confirmation of that result.
And there you see it, Andy Watts winning the race, just receiving his laurel. Neil Mackenzie in second place, and Steve Chambers, who had led at some point, down in third place at the end there.
Well, now, motorcycling, and from the Donington circuit, the third round of the Yamaha Pro-Am Series. An unusual but highly spectacular competition in which young professionals take on young amateurs, all of the riders, in fact, under 24 years of age, and all riding identical 350cc road bikes. Well, after the opening 2 rounds, the defending champion, Ray Swan, is not yet in this year's top 6. Graham Cannell from the Isle of Man leads on 23 points. Andy Watts from Kings Lynn has 18, and in third place, Paul Tinker from Grimsby on 16. Well, this afternoon's third round of the Yamaha Pro-Am Series will be over 10 laps of the 1.9-mile Donington circuit, with speeds reaching the 115-mile-an-hour mark. Your commentators are Barry Sheen, who rides later, of course, in the World of Sport Superbike Challenge, and the man we hear from now, Chris Carter.
Another round of the Witchbike Wrangler Pro-Am, one of the most exciting championships in the sport. 20 top young riders on identical 350 RDLC Yamahas. And to make it even fairer, all competitors have to select their bikes by pulling their keys out of the hat. And to supervise this thing, we see veteran rider Charlie Williams and Bob Cox, Bruce Cox, in fact, the organiser of the series, Ray Swan, the reigning champion in this championship, pulling his key out. Kevin Mitchell there, waiting to get his, and there is Ken Irons. So all the riders then have no knowledge whatsoever of what bike they're going to get in advance. And Barry Sheen, this system of pulling the keys out of the hat must be a good thing to make sure nobody has a quicker bike than the rest, or at least if they do, it's by luck, not judgment.
Oh yeah, it's a really good idea. The only bad thing about it is if you get the bad luck of the draw at the end of the season when the bike's been crashed about 20 times. But it is a good idea because, as you say, all the bikes should be the same.
Well, luck of the draw, and the luck of the draw means that the competitors get equal bikes. This, in fact, is the warm-up lap for the riders running around the circuit on their machines just to warm up the tyres. Halfway round on this warm-up lap, and it really is as crucial in this sort of competition as in anything else, because these bikes are, as I say, absolutely identical, and to get the tyres to the right working temperature, warming the tyres, not warming the bike, that's the object of the exercise. They'll be coming round to the start line in a few moments, lining up in the order of the championship, and that means, of course, we shall see Graham Cannell from the Isle of Man, who lives almost within sight of the famous Ballaugh Bridge on the Isle of Man TT circuit. Next to him will be Andy Watts from King's Lynn in Norfolk. Paul Tinker, well, he's from Waltham, near Grimsby in Lincolnshire. And then the young Scotsman Neil Mackenzie from Stirling in Scotland. So here we go, in picture there, number 4, Neil Mackenzie. Quick wave to the camera. Hello, Mum. We know all about that. Paul Tinker next to him. He's riding bike number 3. Paul, who last year won the 250 and 350 ACU Star Championships. A man with a tremendous amount of talent. So Graham Cannell then on the far side of the grid. Andy Watts next to him, a man who works in a bank in King's Lynn when he's not racing motorcycles. See, there's a gap there on the grid there. In fact, it's not. It's Graham Cannell on the far side, Andy Watts next to him, then Paul Tinker, then Neil Mackenzie, then Steve Chambers. Well, you're a bit of a fan of Steve Chambers, aren't you, Barry?
Yeah, I certainly am. This is the bit that scares me, is the first corner after the start.
Well, they're all looking forward. It's a clutch start. They'll have a 10-second warning, and away they go. And as ever, it was a fairly hectic start. They're bobbing and weaving before they go into the first corner, and it's Neil Mackenzie, number 4, who's got quite a good advantage in this thing. If you've got more than 3 machines length, that's a good lead, isn't it?
It sure is. Actually, it's nowhere near as closely packed at the first corner as it usually is, which is a good thing, really.
Yes, indeed. Perhaps people are learning a little bit and deciding that they can get themselves sorted out on the first lap, and as you see, they're getting themselves sorted out in the most hectic fashion, absolutely nose to tail. And as Barry says, this may not be as quite so cramped and packed as they normally are, but it's a fairly hectic business. But it's still number 4, Neil Mackenzie, who heads this screaming pack of 20 RD LC Yamahas, water-cooled 2-stroke road bikes. Still Mackenzie in the lead.
Actually, Mackenzie's got a bigger lead now than I've ever seen anybody have after about 10 laps, let alone on the first.
And somebody, I think, so wide on
grass
the... Well, a lucky escape there. Definitely turned into a grass track racer overnight. Still Mackenzie in the lead.
Now, this is another good bit coming up. At the end of this long straight is chicane. And everybody wants to outbrake one another. So if you watch with interest as they come up to this next right-hand corner, it's usually quite exciting.
And he looks like Neil Robinson. That's the younger brother of Donny Robinson, the Grand Prix rider, number 6. And good grief, there are 1 or 2 little...
Oh, see what I mean?
Oh, and something goes straight on. Well, that was fairly desperate stuff, and Ivan Gray, I'm sure that is, getting back into the action. And it was Ivan Gray from Dudley deciding that it was safer to go around the slip road than to take the chicane, and that's put him right at the back of this pack. This is a 10-lap race. We're on the 2nd lap now, and somebody else drops a cod and gets a bit of a fist waving. That was Andy Watts who made a bit of a, shall we say, a mistake.
Yeah, I saw somebody waving at somebody. I wasn't sure whether they were saluting or doing something else.
So here they come, and it's still Neil Mackenzie. That looks like Paul Tinker. It is. It's Paul Tinker, number 3, looking for a way past Neil Mackenzie.
Oh, dear me.
Oh, that really is getting very naughty. Mr. Mackenzie doesn't want to be overtaken, I don't think, Barry.
No, I think what they ought to do when we do the commentary on this is give us a Valium before we do it, I think.
And in Paul Tinker being eased out, and whether they're going to go down in a box.
Eased
no, they
out?
don't. Good grief, Graham Cannell, number 1. And Paul Tinker drops back to 4th place, and he could easily end up 6th at the moment. It's still Neil Mackenzie in the lead, but that's Graham Cannell, number 1, who's dived through in desperate fashion to go up into 2nd place. Andy Watts there with the black leathers with the yellow and gold markings, and Neil Mackenzie had the look over his shoulder. They're weaving down the back straight so as not to let anyone have any slipstream effect, and it didn't do any good at all, because into the lead goes Graham Cannell. Cannell in the lead. He's now Andy Watts, number 2, in 2nd place. And Neil Mackenzie, the man who led early on. Oh, and there's another bashing of bikes as lower down the field there. It's Graham Cannell, though, the new race leader, and Neil Mackenzie's is 3 bikes side by side, and Neil Mackenzie charges through to second place. Andy Watts has to ease off, and number 21, that's Ray Swan, the championship winner from last year, and the man who so far hasn't scored a single point in this year's competition. Well, Ray Swan from Dunstable in Bedfordshire, keen to put that right, but this is the race leader, Graham Cannell.
Actually, the guy that rides the smoothest at the beginning of the race has got the best chance of doing good at the end, because the tyres, after about 6 or 7 laps starts, it can really get hot, and you'll notice in a couple of laps' time the bike will start weaving all over the show.
You mean weaving more than it does already?
Well, yeah, really. But a guy that's ridden the bike steady, his tyres are going to be in better shape towards the end of the race, and only paid the last lap anyway.
So, Ray Swan takes the lead. Ray Swan, in absolutely splendid style, goes to the front. Number 21, that's Ray Swan, the last year's championship winner, takes the lead from number 1, Graham Cannell from the Isle of Man.
Whoa, big slide there.
Well, that was a desperate moment back there. Really hairy stuff this is, but tremendous racing. Ray Swan, number 21, the leader. Number 1, Graham Cannell. Will Cannell go through on the inside? He looks if he's got the better line, but Swan sweeps across. Andy Watts, number 2, is in 3rd place.
Oh, boy. Oh, God, I hate this.
Well, Ivan Gray there decided he didn't want to take the corner, but in aiming for the slip road, nearly brought himself off and about 3 others.
That's the second time he's done that.
Yeah, he doesn't like the chicane, does he? Ivan Gray definitely doesn't like the chicane. Action at the front, though, and up into 3rd place now goes Andy Watts. It's absolutely amazing how they can try to change lines going right across the front wheel of other people. In picture, it's number 2, Andy Watts. He's in 3rd place. Number 4, Neil Mackenzie, one-time leaders, back in 4th place. And this 18, Kenneth Irons from Luton. He's moving up through the field, but out in front, it's Ray Swan. Here we got number 21. Behind him, number 1, Graham Cannell. And Ray Swan really is beginning to put on the pressure. This is a colossal lead by Pro-Am standards. Number 4, that's Neil Mackenzie. Number 2 was Andy Watts. Number 12 there, towards the tail end of the field, that's Kevin Mitchell. But it really is a desperate battle for the lower leaderboard places. There's points and money at stake here. And for these lads, all of them under 24 years of age, the money is the important as points, I think.
The way some of them ride, it's no good to him in hospital bed, though, is it?
Absolutely amazing. And Paul Tinker in the middle of there, and that's the last place I'd want to be. Oh, dear, 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 dear.
Oh, I don't believe it.
And that was Andy Watts, who found himself in the gutter there. He didn't want to be, but out in front still. It's number 21, Ray Swan. Behind him, it's number 1, Graham Cannell, and Graham Cannell has dived through into the lead. No, he's not, because Swanee goes across, closes the door, and leaves no room at all on the faster line. That's your line round Rodgate, isn't it, Barry? Round a bit wider going in.
Well, a little bit wider going in, because it gives you a bit more room to run out of road on the way out. But that guy, the guy that was leading, was using the berm on the outside of the track as well.
And that is Paul Tinker, number 3, the man who has managed to pull his way clear of that desperate little dice behind. 6 laps to go in this race, 4 laps gone. And as we've said so many times, these are absolutely identical motorcycles, road-going 350s, and really, as we've seen throughout these races...
It's getting to hot tyre time now. You can see the bike starting to wriggle around a bit more.
Well, we shall see whether Barry's right, whether the people who take it a little bit cool, a little bit more carefully early on, the smoother riders, not heating the tyres up, not putting too much pressure on, whether they'll get some advantage. And a fastest lap at the moment, around 1 minute 22nd. 1 minute 27, that's not too bad a time on a production bike.
No, it's a very good time in actual fact on a road bike.
And Ken Irons has now caught up Ray Swan. Ray Swan in the lead.
Actually, I've never seen...
6th lap now.
I've never seen a Pro-Am race where the leaders have dropped the second pack so much. No, usually the whole lot are within sort of 2 seconds covers the whole field, doesn't it?
It really does look as though it's a 3-man dice at the moment, unless somebody can detach themselves from that gap there, the pack there at the back.
I think what's happening in the second pack, they're all fighting with one another so much, they're forgetting about the leaders, and they're wasting too much time.
Well, it's halfway distance through the race, less than halfway stage. Race 1 still holds off, holds the lead. Graham Cannell from the Isle of Man, the championship leader. Swanee, so far, without a single point in this competition. Number 1 there, Graham Cannell, the man who leads the championship with 23. And in third place is Neil Mackenzie. I'm sorry, in fact, it's Ken Irons in third place, my apologies. And Ken Irons, of course, hasn't done too well in the point stakes so far. Well, this is the three-man dice, and Graham Cannell again goes for the inside line and forces race 1. You can see the bike.
Oh,
and race 1 leans on it.
Nothing like an elbow in your ribs.
Well, Mr. Swan proving the point. He didn't want to be overtaken at that particular point. And there they are, still side by side. And Ken Irons waves at his pit crew. I don't know whether he's enjoying this or deciding he really wants to be out of it. Ken Irons goes through into second place. Maybe that signal to the rest, to his pit crew, was that he can pass them whenever he wants to. And it really does look as though he's got the legs of them. No, he's not. Race 1 back in the lead, number 21. It's number 18, Ken Irons in second place. And number 1, Graham Cannell from the Isle of Man in the third spot.
Well, they certainly have pulled out a lead from the second pack, haven't they?
Well, they've absolutely destroyed the opposition, haven't they?
Really have.
And Ken Irons looking for a way past, and so too is Graham Cannell.
Oh, no. That's the old tyres getting hot, you see.
And again, Ken Irons goes through on the inside. Has he got him? Yes, he has. Ken Irons, number 18, grabs the lead from number 21, race 1, and the number 1, Graham Cannell, still there in third spot. And really, it's absolutely anybody's race still. Well, that's assuming they don't knock themselves off on the chicane.
I was going to say it's going to be a do-or-die effort of the chicane on the last lap.
Well, Swanee really is good going into the chicane. Maybe he's too good. And Graham Cannell takes second place, and the man who led for part of that lap is back in third spot. Race 1, number 21 in the lead. Number 1, Graham Cannell in second place. Number 18, Ken Irons in third place.
I would say Ken Irons. He seems the most relaxed rider of the whole lot. You know, he doesn't seem to be getting in such a state as the other two.
And they're in third place now. It's number 6. That's Neil Robinson, Smutty as he is known by his Irish friends. Behind him, Steve Chambers. Well, Steve not doing so well in this one, Barry.
No, he's not. But there's no reason for it because, as I say, all the bikes are the same. But these leading bunch, they've just got such a lead now that it doesn't look like the other guy. Oh, look at this. It doesn't look like the other guy's going to catch him up. And also the suspension's starting to get hot now, which is making it work a lot more freely. That's why you watch the bikes are bouncing up and down, apart from banging into one another.
Well, the picture speaks for itself. 3 young men, 3 very talented young British road racers on identical bikes, and they are really, literally fighting for every inch of this Donington Park circuit. It's Ken Irons in the lead, race 1 in second place, and Graham Cannell in third spot as they go underneath the Dunlop Bridge and head for the chicane. It's Irons in the lead. Cannell's got the inside of race 1. But Swanee is a brave man. He'll just lay the bike across Graham Cannell, and he does this time. And Swanee's quicker out of the corner. Ken Irons made a mistake.
I think Ken Irons should have gone into the chicane there and braked a bit earlier, so the other 2 guys would have thought he wasn't very good at braking. Then coming into the chicane on the last lap, just leave his braking to the proper time, and it would have been a big surprise for him.
Well, Ken, a youngster, obviously not yet developed the race tactics of a man of your experience, Barry, but they've got a lot of skill, haven't they, these boys?
Oh, they sure have, without any doubt. I mean, I'm not all that into riding road bikes around a racing track, but they make a really good job of it, I must admit.
And, of course, they are, all of them, competent on their 250s as well. They all race 250 and 350 machines as well in genuine racing conditions. And the news from the pits is that Kim Barker has pulled out of the race, so Kim Barker out of the race, and so too is Kenny Shepherd, in case any of their fans...
Whoa!
Oh, and race 1 nearly retired before our very eyes. Well, another lucky moment. Oh, good grief!
Retired, you see?
Yes.
The tyres, I keep saying the tyres, but they really pay out. And again, see, hot tyres.
Well, Swanee will have to decide now whether he wants to settle for a safe third or whether...
A safe third or a big heap of rubbish.
Right. So it's a two-man dice going into the chicane again. Cannell on the inside and Kenny Irons swoops round the outside, gets into a big wobble. Discretion for once being the better part of valour, and Race Swan's coming back at him again. This is the last lap of this 10-lap race. Graham Cannell then out in front, side by side is Race Swan and Ken Irons, and really there's no more chances left after this one. Cannell in the lead, Ken Irons in second place, Race Swan is third. Behind them a long way back is Steve Chambers. Neil Robinson is fifth, and Matt Oxley, the road tester for Motorcycle Weekly turned road racer, he's in sixth place. Well, that's not a bad ride for Matt. This, though, is the man who leads this race. He's got just over half a lap to go. Graham Cannell from the Isle of Man, the championship leader with 23 points. And it's Ray Swan and Ken Irons, and Ray Swan dives through into the second place.
Cannell's got it sewn up with that amount of lead on the last lap. Although you never know, the old kamikaze job at the hairpin, you never know.
Well, we shall see. They've got the back straight to have a go at him, and Ken Irons really has got the bit between his teeth. Sliding that RD's chin on the tank. He's chasing Graham Cannell down the back straight. He knows that the only place he can do it is at the chicane. He'll go into it at least 20 miles an hour quicker.
No, it's impossible. With that amount of lead, he'd never do it.
Nothing is impossible in Pro-Am racing.
No, never, no way.
And in fact, you're right, Barry. It's going to be a win for Graham Cannell, provided he stays on. All three do. Graham Cannell, the race winner. Ken Irons takes second place. Ray Swan is in third place. That's Steve Chambers going through in fourth spot. Number 6, Neil Robinson, and the rest of the pack going through. But Graham Cannell, a tremendous victory, a good ride too from Ken Irons. He scored some points for the first time, and an excellent performance from the last year's, the reigning champion, Ray Swan. But Cannell extends his lead out in the championship battle. Well, what a performance.
I can't see anybody beating him, actually. He's riding really well.
Graham Cannell then and Ray Swan coming around and waving to the crowd. They really have had a tremendous dice, and the crowd are lapping it. So, Graham Cannell riding the distinctive blue and yellow Wrangler bike. That indicates he's the championship leader. And as I say, Graham Cannell having stretched his advantage. So, Graham Cannell takes a wave to the crowd as he comes round to the podium, and time, I think, to hand back to Fred Downage in the studio.
Thank you very much indeed. And there's the confirmation of the result of the third round of the Yamaha Pro-Am Series. Victory for Graham Cannell, Ken Irons in second place, and defending champion Ray Swan in third, which means that after 3 rounds, Graham Cannell still leads the competition on 38 points.
Well, you're quite right, Jim. Not many of them, or at least not so many, will see the finish line if past history repeats itself. This is a very competitive, exciting competition. The riders on identical motorcycles, and that really does lead to some very close quarters, elbow bashing, pharaoh bashing, and bikes landing on the tarmac from time to time. Peter Clifford, it's a very serious sort of competition.
Yes, it certainly is. As both all machines are identical, it's completely down to rider prowess to see who turns out in front. And these men are all young and very, very hungry, all keen to show themselves in front of the television cameras.
Well, the man who will be in pole position, the man who leads the field out at the end of this first warm-up lap, number 1, that's Ken Irons, very much on form at the moment. Had a good ride at Cadwell Park in the opening round, which is the reason he rides number 1 bike here today. Ken Irons from Luton had a good ride at Brands Hatch yesterday on his 125cc racer, and that's the championship leader, Ken Irons. A lot of pressure on him. Next to him will be number 2, Gordon Allett, and it's good to see Gordon Allett in the racing saddle. He took a very heavy tumble at Brands Hatch yesterday, and Allett back in the picture. The rest of the front row of the grid, Kevin Mitchell riding number 3, number 4, Kurt Langham, the colourful coal miner from up in Yorkshire. Number 5, Ray Swan not starting. He's injured his wrist. He took a tumble at Brands. And number 6 will be Andy Watts. So Ken Irons on number 1, Gordon Allett number 2, Kevin Mitchell number 3, and number 4, Kurt Langham on the front row of the grid. As we say, we miss number 5, number 6 on the second row of the grid. That's Andy Watts. Alongside him, number 7, Steve Chambers, a very talented young man from Lincolnshire, a man that Barry Sheen puts a lot of faith in. And next to him, number 8, Paul Tinker from Grimsby, and number 9, Rob Orne, the local boy from Ilkeston, who expects to do well here. They're edging forward, they're waiting for the lights to change to green as the clutch start, away they go, and it was number 3, Kevin Mitchell, who had a wonderful start, but right from the back row, number 8, that's Paul Tinker, who charged to the front of the grid, and they're bobbing and weaving, as you can see, equal bike, equal performance, jockeying for positions as they go into Redgate, and really it's not a place for the faint-hearted, as this pack of RDLC Yamahas go hurtling into, and that looks as though Ken Irons down Craner, you can see the bikes. Looks as though Ken Irons in the lead. Oh dear, there was a desperate overtaking manoeuvre there. People chopping and charging on the curbs to get a better chance, but that's Ken Irons. And look at that bunch of 5 there. 5 bikes, just nose to tail. Number 3, that's Kevin Mitchell, who's in second place, leading that group. But the man out in front is number 1, Ken Irons, the man who leads the championship at the moment. And you can see the bike snaking viciously as Kenny Irons winds the power on. Behind him, it's number 3, Kevin Mitchell. And the rest of the Pro-Am riders, absolutely nose to tail.
And it looks as though the championship man, Graham Cannell, the winner of last year, is up into 4th place as they break here.
But it's Kenny Irons who leads in a change. It's Andy Watts who's gone into second place on bike number 6. Ken Irons leads from Andy Watts. Then it's number 3, Kevin Mitchell, in 3rd position, pulling into the slipstream. He thinks his bike is quicker, and that's number 19, Tim Cannell, who was in 4th place, absolutely wheel to wheel. And Kevin Mitchell just throws his bike across the front of Graham Cannell and not just holds on to second place. He goes up into second spot. Not for long though, because Andy Watts has eased his way back into second position. Ken Irons leads. It's Andy Watts now in second place. That's Graham Cannell though now, who goes through into second spot. Number 19, Graham Cannell. You can see the bike bounce and weave as he hits those curves. They're using all the track and just a little bit more. Ken Irons is in the lead, but there's a tremendous 4-way scrap behind him. That's Graham Cannell, number 19, and another change there as Kevin Mitchell finds the better line on the inside to go through to 3rd spot. Andy Watts level with Kevin Mitchell. It looks as though his bike is a little bit quicker, but we've seen that Kevin Mitchell is quite prepared to go round the outside or through on the inside on the corners. Ken Irons in the lead, 19 Graham Cannell, then it's Mitchell and Andy Watts disputing 3rd spot. Coming up then to the end of the 2nd lap in this 8-lap battle, Ken Irons in the lead. Then it's Graham Cannell, and are these 3 who are battling for 3rd spot going to get through safely? It seems like it. Ken Irons leads. Graham Cannell is in second place. Then it's Andy Watts behind him. Well, very desperate.
Yes, it certainly is. Irons nearly got away there, but Cannell now, through the pack, which were holding him up, has set about chasing the leader. And I'm sure that we'll see him put Irons under pressure very, very shortly.
Steve Chambers now in the frame. Steve Chambers in the white top and the red bottoms to his leathers, up there with the leading bunch. And Ken Irons now under pressure from Graham Cannell, and Graham Cannell goes through to take the lead. Graham Cannell leads, and Ken Irons takes advantage of a wide line there from Graham Cannell to regain the lead. Cannell looks over his shoulder to see where the rest are, and they're not so far behind. Ken Irons, number 1, Graham Cannell, number 19, and a real desperate battle for the lead here in this Wrangler Which Bike Pro-Am Challenge. Cannell looking for the inside line, changes his mind because Ken Irons has the better line.
And he also probably wants to be in Irons slipstream as they come down the straight. They'll be touching 110 miles an hour, just over 110 miles an hour down the straight, and Cannell pulls out of the slipstream to go past.
Cannell then looking for the overtaking manoeuvre, manages to stretch a few lengths as they come into the chicane at the end of the 3rd lap. Cannell then in the lead now. Ken Irons in second place. Andy Watts going onto the curb. He's there in 3rd spot. In fact, that's Kevin Mitchell. My apologies. Kevin Mitchell, number 3, is there in the 3rd spot. But Andy Watts is right on his tail. Cannell, the leader. Ken Irons right on his tyre tracks. Then it's Kevin Mitchell, Andy Watts, and there with the white leathers and red bottoms to his leathers is Steve Chambers. And that's desperate there for 2nd place. Kevin Mitchell and Andy Watts giving each other absolutely no room at all. And Steve Chambers takes advantage of a momentary lapse of concentration to go through into 4th place. This is the battle for the lead. Cannell with Ken Irons not just beside him, but almost riding pillion.
And what Cannell now has to try and do is smooth up his riding style. Riding fast and ragged, scrubs the speed off the machine, and the Yamahas don't have all that much power being production bikes, and he now wants to be as smooth as he can to try and get away, but Irons won't let him, of course, sticking a wheel around the outside as they sweep back onto the main straight and get tucked down. Irons now slipstreaming Cannell, up to 110, over 110 miles an hour, as Irons in the slipstream of Cannell's machine, looks behind, but hasn't got the speed to pull out and pass.
Ken Irons looking for an overtaking manoeuvre, can't outbrake, has to leave, let Cannell go through to end the 4th lap. This is the halfway stage. Graham Cannell in the lead, Ken Irons then in 2nd place, and those two just ahead. Then it's Kevin Mitchell, Andy Watts in 4th, alongside Mitchell as to go into Redgate. And Kenny Irons almost runs at the back of Graham Cannell. They're both on the curve. They're using the tracker just a little bit more.
And Irons there made the mistake by running up the curve. He lost ground, scrubbed off the speed on the curve, and Cannell made those vital 10 yards that he's now getting away from Irons.
Well, Cannell stretching the gap, but Irons winds on the wing and begins to pull him back. He's got a much quicker line through there. You can see him pull back a 30-yard disadvantage to just a few machines lengths now, and really Ken Irons, for my money, looks favourite to win this one. Graham Cannell, though, is the man out in front. Cannell in the lead, but Ken Irons looks as though he's got the measure of him in various parts of the circuit. But the crucial section, of course, will be that long final straight underneath the bridge and into the chicane. And again, Ken Irons goes around the outside, or thinks about going around the outside of Graham Cannell. Onto the back straight. This will be the end of the 5th lap. Cannell in the lead. Ken Irons has a glance to see where the opposition is. He doesn't want to get caught out by being passed by 2 or 3 men and making life even more difficult. I think Irons has got a race plan sorted out. 5 laps gone now. Graham Cannell in the lead. Ken Irons in 2nd place. Still Kevin Mitchell there with Andy Watts breathing down his neck.
It seems likely that Irons is hoping that he and Cannell can get away from the others, knowing that with the 2 of them it's going to be simpler to sort it out on the last lap, rather than have a pack of 5 or 6 who are going to mess each other up.
And Ivan Gray now from Dudley, he's beginning to get amongst the leaders on number 18, and there's Kenny Irons on that fast downhill sweep. He really is much quicker than Graham Cannell, gets a lot of that margin back. Cannell looks over one shoulder, then the other side to see where the opposition is, and really I think Graham Cannell would do far better concentrating on where he's going and how quick he's going rather than where Ken Irons is, because there's nothing he can do about when and where Irons is going to make that overtaking manoeuvre. All Cannell can do is go as quick as he can.
And these machines, not only are they road-going motorcycles, but they don't use slick racing tyres, and that's another thing the riders have to watch out for, to conserve their tyres, not to destroy them too quickly, and hope that there's plenty of tread and good rubber left for the end of the race.
Nose to tail then, Cannell and Irons, but another wheel-to-wheel battle for 3rd spot between Andy Watts and Kevin Mitchell. Cannell still holds the advantage. Kenny Irons is there, and that was Andy Watts just throwing his bike across the front wheel of Kevin Mitchell to go through into 3rd place. 6 laps completed. Feet almost touching each other there now. Kevin Mitchell now from number 7, Steve Chambers. Steve Chambers there. So the race leader, Graham Cannell, with just over 1.5 laps to go to the checkered flag. And we've lost Rob Orme, the Derbyshire boy who was expected to do well in this one. He's gone missing, and that's sad news. but no problems for the rest of the leader men. That's the battle behind for the lower leaderboard spots. Kevin Mitchell dives through on the inside of Steve Chambers. And that, in fact, is Gordon Allett. I identified him as Ivan Gray a little earlier because of his white leathers. My apologies to both gentlemen. There's the battle for the lead. Graham Cannell under pressure once more. He's not had an easy race of this at all. And you can see them bobbing and weaving down the back straight. That scrap for 4th, 5th and 6th spot. A real battle, the three of them side by side. The leaders come into the chicane. Here's this three-man scrap. And it's Gordon Allett who has to ease off. He's there in 5th position. So we're on the last lap now. On the last lap. Graham Cannell, Kenny Irons in 2nd spot. Andy Watts is there in 3rd position. Then Kevin Mitchell is 4th. But this is the battle that matters in the picture now. If Ken Irons has got a place that he can overtake, he's got to show his hand soon. This is the 8th and final lap. The back wheel pattering across the track. Kenny Irons there, much quicker through that spot, but Cannell closes the door. Irons is there, right on his tail. Andy Watts battling to get on terms with his leading two, and he can't. Graham Cannell out in front. Kenny Irons. Just 2 machines lengths between these bikes, and Irons closes the gap again. Again puts that wheel round the outside, and Cannell makes a mistake, and Irons shows that he's ready for that. They're down the back straight for the last time. Cannell trying to move over across the track and it looks as though Irons has not got it in him. If he's got to pass him, he's got to pass him now, and I don't think Kenny Irons can. Graham Cannell into the chicane for the last time. He holds the lead. Kenny Irons is going to have to settle for 2nd spot. It's Graham Cannell. Graham Irons in 2nd place. Andy Watts finishes in 3rd spot. And Gordon Allett moves through to finish in 4th space, with Kevin Mitchell pushed back to 5th. Well, a great ride from Graham Cannell. That really is. Well, the order then as they crossed the line, Graham Cannell just holding on to that to victory from Kenny Irons in 2nd place. Graham Cannell, number 19. Kenny Irons, bike number 1. In 3rd spot was number 6, Andy Watts. 4th hope was number 2, Gordon Allett. A fine ride from a young man who hurt himself at Brands Hatch last week. 5th was Kevin Mitchell, number 3. This is the man, Graham Cannell, from the Isle of Man. A man who actually lives on the famous TT mountain circuit, but he's not just a good pure road racer. He's fairly effective on short tracks too. An excellent ride, and that's 15 very valuable points for Graham Cannell as he looks forward to the rest of this year's Pro-Am races. A wave to the crowd there from Graham Cannell. And really, he was a delighted man, and so he should be. Kenny Irons gave him a lot of pressure, a lot of trouble. And Kenny Irons coming round to complete his final lap, his lap of honour. He'll be coming round now to the garlanding ceremony. And comes to a standstill. Well, he's had to work very hard for that one. And the garlanding wreath being held ready by Steve Parrish, a man from the Mitsui camp who put on these races. So it's Graham Cannell then, getting the garlanding ceremony. 2nd, Kenny Irons. 3rd, Andy Watts. 4th, Gordon Allett. And 5th, Kevin Mitchell.